I'm a teacher, and I know AI has given us a couple of headaches over the last year. It's spoiled a few homeworks, it's created a few divisive discussions over the dinner hall, but that has all just changed. Google went to war with OpenAI, ChatGPT, yesterday, and both of them are releasing things that are going to have a seismic shift both on education and the world. I'm going to be taking you through some of those updates, showing you some clips of what they're releasing to show you the world we're living in now. If you're an AI enthusiast, then hopefully this video is useful in getting you up to speed on what's happened this week in a busy week. If you're someone who thinks that I'm not interested in AI, it's passed me by, well, that's like saying the internet passed me by in 1975. So this video is definitely for you, to get you a little bit up to speed about what's happening. I'm going to kick off by showing you a video from Google yesterday. This demonstrates the world we're now living in.
Okay, let's do some tests. Tell me when you see something that makes sound.
I see a speaker, which makes sound.
What is that part of the speaker called?
That is the tweeter. It produces high-frequency sounds.
Give me a creative alliteration about these.
Creative crayons color cheerfully. They certainly craft colorful creations.
What does that part of the code do?
This code defines encryption and decryption functions. It seems to use AES-CBC encryption to encode and decode data based on a key and an initialization vector, IV.
That's right. What neighborhood do you think I'm in?
This appears to be the King's Cross area of London. It is known for its railway station and transportation connections.
Do you remember where you saw my glasses?
Yes, I do. Your glasses were on the desk near a red apple.
What can I add here to make this system faster?
Adding a cache between the server and database could improve speed.
What does this remind you of?
Schrodinger's cat.
All right, give me a band name for this duo.
Golden Stripes.
Nice. Thanks, Gemini.
Well, wow. So AI is no longer a little nuisance at school. It's not a homework helper. It's massively changing the world we're living in, but I'm going to be focusing on what the impact is in school. That video you saw shows that AI is now multimodal, as they're calling it. It can see, it can hear, it can talk in real time, and it uses memory. But let's take a step back. Below, you should be able to see all of the things I'm going to cover. If I waffle on too much, feel free to skip to the section that is relevant to you. But while you're skipping, don't forget, it is a YouTube channel, so it would be fantastic if you could subscribe and watch some of the other videos if you find them useful. Let's have a look. The reason that many of the teachers haven't really embraced it, and many of the students haven't really embraced it yet, the reason that it's a mild annoyance and nothing more seismic in schools is because the majority of people, the vast majority of users, are using the free 3.5 GPT model. Let's hear what Sam Altman, the owner of OpenAI, has to say about that.
ChatGPT is not phenomenal. Like, ChatGPT is like mildly embarrassing at best.
If you've got someone really annoying in your school like me who's raving about it and saying it's so useful, it can do so many things, it's probably because they are using and paying for the €20 a month. They really have seen the capabilities. Ethan Mollick is someone I'd thoroughly recommend following. He talks in his book about when you really understand it and you use GPT-4, you really understand what it can do. You get 3 sleepless nights, wondering, wow, what can I use it for? The world is a different place. And I thoroughly agree. Now, the big news this week is that those sleepless nights are coming to everyone in the world. OpenAI are releasing their top paid model, no more 3.5. They are releasing the top premier model that the paid people have been using, GPT-4, to everyone for free, possibly without even needing to sign in. That means every one of your students is now going to understand the full capabilities. So just how much better is GPT-4 than GPT-3? Well, massively. Put it in context. The GPT-3, when it took the bar exam, it beat about 10% of the people, real people who took the exam. Pretty good. GPT-4 beat 80% of the people who took the bar exam. It is a seismic shift. It's the equivalent that you and the children who've been using it have been like cruising along, testing out a little old go-kart. Well, the GPT-4 users have been flying around in spaceships. They cannot be compared. What does this mean for your assessments? What does this mean for your homeworks? Well, Leon Furs, if you follow him, he's another person who's been talking, a teacher who's been talking a lot about this. They're just gone. It can just devour any assessment that you're putting, even if it's the hardest, the highest level, the A level. It is not a challenge. It used to be that it was a challenge for maths, but no more. Its math skills have improved. It can demolish any assessment you put in front of it. Many of you are now thinking then, well, it's banned. You've been trying it for a year. I'm going to ban it. I'm not going to allow it. Not going to happen, I'm afraid. So the updates again that have come out, the first thing that happened a little bit a while ago, it's not happened in my country yet, but they're rolling out this AI across all of the social media that the children are using. Secondly, the update that came yesterday, another one to have a look at, GPT has announced it's a desktop app now. Not yet, but over the next couple of weeks, it'll be on the desktop. So it'll be hovering every time a child writes or you write, it will be hovering next to it, tempting them into writing it. And finally, have a look at this video from Google last night.
One thing we've heard from students is that they're doing more of their schoolwork directly on their phones and tablets. So we thought, could Circle the Search be your perfect study buddy? Let's say my son needs help with a tricky physics word problem, like this one. My first thought is, oh boy, it's been a while since I've thought about kinematics. If he's stumped on this question, instead of putting me on the spot, he can circle the exact part he's stuck on and get step-by-step instructions, right where he's already doing the work. Ah, of course. Final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration times elapsed time. Right. I was just about to say that. Seriously though, I love how it shows how to solve the problem, not just the answer. This new capability is available today. And later this year, Circle the Search will be able to tackle more complex problems involving symbolic formulas, diagrams, graphs, and more. Circle the Search is only on Android. It's available on more than 100 million devices today, and we're on track to double that by the end of the year.
All of this means that you can't ban it. It's integrated into the children's lives. It's going to be integrated into our lives. It's now all about opt out of AI and not opt in. It's gonna have to. If you want children not to use it, they're going to have to make a very strong, conscious decision not to, because everything will be tempting them into using it. The next question you should be asking yourself, well, if we can't ban it, is it actually a skill? Is there a skill in using this technique? Well, For the last year, there's been lots of people thinking, yeah, it's a computer skill. I've been fighting that since the start, and I'm pleased to say that Google is now making it very, very clear. Watch this advert.
Let's take a look.
Enter a prompt here. Okay, can't be that hard. How about generate an image of a cat playing guitar?
Is that how it works? Am I doing AI?
Yeah, it just does whatever you type.
What a last-minute gift ideas you can make with arts and crafts.
Plan a workout routine to get bigger calves.
Help me think of titles for my tell-all memoir.
What's something smart I can say about Renoir?
Generate another image of a cat playing guitar.
If a girl calls me a snack, how do I reply?
Yeah, that's how it works. You're doing AI.
Make this email sound more professional before I hit send.
What's a good excuse to cancel dinner with my friends?
We're literally sitting right here.
There's no wrong way to prompt. Yeah, you're doing it. There's no wrong way to prompt. Just whatever you just prompt your prompt in the prompt bar.
Or just generate an image of a cat playing guitar.
You know I can do other stuff, right?
So brilliant. Goodbye prompt engineering, goodbye special language and books that you have to copy out and copy and paste. No, the skill is communication. You are talking back and forwards with it using normal language, which is what it's trained on, natural language. The better the communicator, the better the results you're going to get. Which takes me to an anecdote, if you bear with me, or you can skip forward, the good thing about YouTube. So I was talking with the teachers today, and I think one of the frustrations they feel is that they could be losing a grip on their subject because computer engineers can come and think they can do a better job. Well, that is just so not the case. The story that happened, if I tell you, I was talking with a music teacher and other teachers along the way, and they said, well, okay then, if you're good at using AI, can you make a better song with your knowledge of AI than the music teacher? And I can emphatically answer, no, of course I can't. And that's the wonderful thing. I have the skill of communication. And if we start to think, the word they're using is, we start to think about humans and AI as a cyborg, very naff, I know, but that is the term they're using, that we're shifting the parameters of what is capable. So all of the children in your class, if they're taught to communicate, can now produce good images, can produce good essays, can produce good songs as well. But the difference between myself and the music teacher is, yes, I'm not musical at all. I can now produce a good song with good communication. But if the music teacher embraces AI, and I don't mean learns how to code, I mean just talks to it, the song that she is able to produce is infinitely better than what I can produce, because she's going to be saying things when she hears the song. She's going to be talking about chord changes and linking it to melodies that I have absolutely no understanding of. Hopefully that leaves people a little bit more comfortable. There is still skill behind this. First, the humanities teachers, the English teachers, the language teachers, we have to be teaching the skills of behavior. To analyze the output, we don't just write in and get an answer. That's low-level use. We need to analyze what it comes out and talk back to it. So communication is there, and then we still need experts. A musician, the best musician in the world, will be made better with AI. The best mathematician will be made better with AI. It can make me very good at maths, but I will still be beaten by the cyborg best mathematician plus AI. The levels are shifting upwards. It doesn't make your expertise as a subject teacher irrelevant. So what does this mean for assessment, particularly summative assessment, things like coursework and IAs and EEs for the IB program, summative assessments that summarize the abilities of the children, how much they've learned, and then they go on resumes and CVs to get them the jobs in the future. Very simple. They're dead. Or they absolutely should be if you're listening, exam boards out there. They are just a joke for AI. GPT-4 and the ones that are advancing along coming can just devour, as we said before, these assessments. They are no challenge. Now, if you're thinking therefore there, and what a lot of people are doing is, yeah, but they'll be protected by academic integrity and the teachers should talk about integrity. Well, again, my personal opinion, but I don't get that logic. If I'm doing my job properly, then surely I'm someone who should be motivating those children to want to do well, to value academic success. That puts them in a very difficult position if on the last day I go, by the way, don't use this tool which can actually make you do really well in academic success. Secondly, we don't live in this fair world. It's full of private schools, private universities where parents pay a huge amount of money to get their children an advantage. Do you really think that these parents are going to be paying the millions over the years and then come to the summative assessments and then because the teacher talks about integrity that they're going to be banning the tool and ultimately leaves the child summarized as the worst because everyone else is going to be using them? I just don't see it happening. Integrity isn't going to protect these systems. Get rid of them now. That's in the current form though, so what do we do? Can we AI-proof an assessment? Well, not well, I have to say. We're not there yet. But here's a little video of an example I did for a teacher training course. Here's some ideas of how I AI-proof some assessments. Method number 3 of AI-resistant assessment, embrace it. It's not cheating if you allow or even encourage its use. LLMs like ChatGPT have enormous potential to firstly motivate your children, but secondly improve the learning. And the real beauty is that it isn't some radical new concept you're bringing in. It allows busy teachers to bring good teaching theory, known principles, into their daily work. Here's a little example I did with my Year 8 class. For their homework, I got them to debate with ChatGPT to try and convince ChatGPT that climate change doesn't exist. Now, this homework didn't take me very long to set at all. It was only a sentence, but it encourages, based on the theories of flipped learning, constructivist theory, critical thinking it's encouraging, and best of all, differentiation throughout. The results proved this when I took the work in. Here's a little example. So this is what one of the children handed in to me for their homework, a transcript of their conversation with ChatGPT. I won't read all of it because these things went on for page after page. Here's a bit. Hi, my teacher wants you and me to have a back and forth debate to try and convince you that climate change isn't real. I'll start. I don't think it's real, as climate has always changed. Look at the ice ages. ChatGPT replies, I understand your point, but it's important to differentiate between natural climate variability and anthropogenic climate change, blah, blah, blah. They reply, what's anthropogenic mean? ChatGPT, anthropogenic refers to something that's caused or influenced by human activity. Now, as I said, this chat went on for 4 or 5 pages. A fantastic task where the levels across all the different abilities in my class had a conversation that suited them. One final thought on assessment before we move on. Maybe there isn't so much of a problem. If we look at the assessment system and say, well, from a stand-back point of view, actually the reason we do summative assessments is to tell employers who is the best for their job, i.e. the better the children do in the exams, that can shortlist, narrow down the field, and the employer can say, great, that's the person for the job, because they can't interview the 2,000 people that have applied. Well, in the modern world, the world that's come out over the last week, that's changed. maybe schools don't need to do the summative assessment at all anymore. Because AI doesn't have a cost. Maybe in the future for the children that we're teaching, they'll be applying for jobs and every single child will, all 2,000, at no cost to the business, will be sitting an AI test and the AI can immediately say, this is the best person. So that could put us in a situation as educators that we don't have to do any summarizing. I would be delighted with that. That really all of the education we do is about formative education, about teaching them and them learning, but not really saying, hey, by the way, you're the cleverest and you're the weakest. Maybe that's the system that educating is moving to. Who knows? Another thing that is clear is that the impact on learning from this week's development is absolutely massive. Bloom in 1988 did, you've probably heard of Bloom's taxonomy, but he did another study and he called it the 2 sigma problem. I'm sure many of you have heard about it, but he did a study and he discovered that essentially everyone is hugely improved in their abilities if they have one-to-one tuition. Average people get smart, weak people get average. There is a 2 sigma improvement if you get one-to-one help. It's called a problem though, because it wasn't possible. We've been trying to solve it for ages, but we can't. It's not financially feasible to get every child in the world one-to-one tuition. Something very personal to me because I set up a social enterprise based on peer-to-peer tutoring. You may be watching on the channel, ECM Tutors, to try and get that one-to-one help and solve Bloom's problem. But again this week, have a look at this.
OpenAI invited myself and my son Imran here to try out some of their new technology. And so we're curious about how good it might be at tutoring someone in math on Khan Academy. So let's get it started. It's loading up. All right, make sure it can see our screen.
Actually, in this format,
hello there.
I can't.
I'm here with my son, and I'd love you to tutor him on this math problem, but don't give him the answer. You can ask questions and nudge him in the right direction, but I really want to make sure he understands it himself. And he's here in the room, so you can talk to him directly.
Of course, I'd be happy to help. Let's look at the problem together. Can you first identify which sides of the triangle are the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse relative to angle alpha?
All right, so I'm pretty sure this is the angle alpha right here, right?
Perfect. That's correct. Now, looking at the triangle, which side do you think is the hypotenuse?
Really,
Remember the hypotenuse?
I'm not totally sure. I think it might be this one, but I really am not sure. This side AC?
You're close. Actually, side AC is called the adjacent side to the angle alpha. The hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle and is directly opposite the right angle. Can you find which one is the hypotenuse?
Oh, okay, I see. So I think the hypotenuse is this really long side from A to B. Would that be correct?
Exactly. Well done. Now that you've identified the hypotenuse, can you identify which side is the opposite side to angle alpha?
Okay, well, I mean, you told me earlier that this was the adjacent side, and I know that's the hypotenuse, so I'm guessing that this side, BC, is the opposite side.
Great deduction. That's absolutely correct. Now that you've identified all the sides relative to angle alpha, do you remember the formula for finding the sine of an angle in a right triangle?
Yeah, I know that the sine is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse.
Perfect. That's absolutely right. Now, can you apply that formula to find sine alpha in the triangle using the lengths of the sides that we've identified?
Okay, so, I mean, you told me that 7, this side BC, is the opposite side. And then you said that the hypotenuse is the longest side, so that would be this side AB, which is 25. So would the answer be 7 over 25?
Excellent work. That's correct. Sine alpha equals 7 over 25. You did a great job identifying the signs and using the sign formula. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask.
In a couple of weeks, therefore, every child out there now has access to this personal tutor. They're not going to be perfect, remember, it's still GPT-0.4. There's still going to be mistakes in there. We need to be careful getting too excited. And some people are saying, yeah, it's good, but it's not as good as a human. It's still pretty boring. So it's not replacing teachers. I don't think we're there yet, but it's certainly an advantage that these children can use at home, that they'll get this one-to-one help. But how about teachers? How can they use it in their lessons? Well, let's just think about PE teachers, for example, with this video technology. They could be taking video of the children playing sport, and straight away the children are going to get feedback on how their technique can improve. The next big news is about something called GPTs, and then Google has got a rival of those that they're calling GEMS. Watch this video.
So we're rolling out a new feature that lets you customize it for your own needs and create personal experts on any topic you want. We're calling these GEMS. They're really simple to set up. Just tap to create a gem, write your instructions once, and come back whenever you need it. For example, here's a gem that I created that acts as a personal writing coach. It specializes in short stories with mysterious twists, and it even builds on the story drafts in my Google Drive. I call it the Cliffhanger Curator. Now, gems are a great time saver when you have specific ways that you want to interact with Gemini again and again. Gems will roll out in the coming months, and our trusted testers are already finding so many creative ways to put them to use. They can act as your yoga bestie, your personal sous chef, a brainy calculus tutor, a peer reviewer for your code, and so much more.
So GPTs are actually pretty easy to make. Again, no coding, all through language. And the paid members, I've already made a couple of them. And what I can do is I can fill it up with all of my syllabus content, any open source books in there, my notes, revision notes, technique, advice. I can put it into all of there. But in the past, and I use it, that means that I go directly into that GPT and it gives me specific feedback. I don't need to clue it in to say, hey, I want to talk about business or anything like that, or with geography. I straight away get answers to the questions that I'm specialized in. Now, the problem has been with that I couldn't give that access to anyone who wasn't a paid member. Another update of this week, they have announced that everyone will have access to these GPTs. So some teachers like myself, I'm going to be busy making better GPTs in the knowledge that I can just pass these over to children. I can put my own limits on the GPTs and I can say, use this GPT, and the GPT will be designed not to give them the answer, but to get them working through a problem, for example, or technique. Enormous potential in these GPTs going out to anyone. The next way it could be helping in the school with the learning is, well, the emotional status in this. Controversial, this one, and I'm certainly no expert on it, but many people around the world are already using AI in its former model, where it wasn't interactively speaking, as we saw in the video there, in its former way as a therapist. Whether to recommend it, I have no idea, but many people are using it. And this study came out, Dan Fitzpatrick wrote in Forbes magazine, have a look. He was talking about a study that came out saying it's already helped prevent suicides, I think, of 30 teenage children because they're having someone to talk to. So there's potential there. Coming up to the final section then, what are the concerns? Now, I'm not going to talk much about this. Huge concerns. We could do a whole nother video and we should be looking out for whole other videos. I'm just going to have a quick run through. So the first one, I think, bilingual schools. Have a look at this video, again, released on Monday.
Live audience on X to submit few requests for what they would like us to try out here. So I will take a couple of prompts. Okay, Bot Gaskar wants to know if GPT-4o is capable of real-time translation. Mark, you want to try this one?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
I speak Italian, so we can just do English Italian.
Let's try to do English Italian. Sure, let's do it. Hey, ChatGPT, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for asking. How about you? How's your day going?
I'm doing great. So I would like you to function as a translator. I have a friend here who only speaks Italian, and I only speak English. And every time you hear English, I want you to translate it to Italian. And if you hear Italian, I want you to translate it back to English. Is that good?
Perfetto.
Mark, io mi chiedo se le balene potessero parlare, cosa ci direbbero?
Mike, she wonders if whales could talk, what would they tell us?
They might ask, how do we solve linear equations?
Potrebbero chiederci come risolviamo le equazioni lineari.
Sicuramente sì.
Certainly yes.
Great, looks like it works.
With that level of translation, are parents really going to be paying for multilingual, bilingual schools? I don't know. I'm certainly not a language teacher, and I'm sure there'll be lots of debate about this. But one thing I can tell you is, if we have a look at this graph, the stocks of Duolingo absolutely plummeted after that video was produced. Data privacy, another big issue. They're saying with all of this videoing around and listening in, everything's going to be captured. Good post here on LinkedIn to think about, saying it's going to be, we need to avoid it because they're going to have access to all of our data. True, but my feeling in reality, well, do you accept cookies? Do your children in your class accept cookies? We can make a lot of noise about privacy, but if you watch a child use the internet, or if you use the internet, the cookies, which is what pops up and says they're recording your data, are the things that most people just jab, quickly accept as fast as they can to get to the website. You've just given them access to your data. So how concerned are people really going to be when you've got real merits coming in? I think that is going to be overlooked very quickly. The final concern I'm going to talk about is the idea of deep fakes. We're already seeing it. We saw it from last year that children or creepy people on the internet are going to be creating fake images using AI, making people look racist, creating pornography with that looks like you. It's set to grow. Now everyone has access to these top models. This is going to be a bigger problem. I don't really know what the solution is, but perhaps one insight could be that could be a strength. I don't know really, but perhaps that could be a strength that because it's set to grow, it's going to be normalized. I have to accept that as I'm on this YouTube channel, in no time, someone is going to get an image of me or a video of me and going to make it look like I am acting like a racist or something like that. Now, I can only really hope that that is done later rather than sooner. If it's done within the next week, people are going to be shocked. That's going to spread around the school. It's going to be outrage and I'm going to have to justify myself. But I think in 6 months' time, people actually are going to have been so used to it and so aware of how easy it is to do that some of the value will have gone away, that I don't think anyone's going to want to see it. If they share that with children at school, look at Mr. Jack, look what he's done. People are going to go, yeah, but he hasn't done that. You've just clicked that button on AI and it's not really very interesting. Maybe that's where it's set to go, but wiser people than me will be making decisions about that. So that concludes this video of the updates that have happened with Google and with OpenAI this week. And if you haven't had your jaw drop, if you haven't been amazed and you're not about to have a sleepless night, then that's down to me, I'm afraid. I haven't done a very good job of explaining it. And I've put links below where you can see the full videos of exactly what can go on. I want to finish on one thing because I actually misled you earlier. Something to think about. Earlier I played this video.
ChatGPT is not phenomenal. Like ChatGPT is like mildly embarrassing at best.
However,
GPT-4 is the dumbest model any of you will ever have to use again by a lot.
I've been talking about GPT-4. In the coming months, in the coming year, we look set for GPT-5, where the level is set to raise far higher than the things I've shown you today. For the children in your school, they're not going to be looking at GPT-5. Imagine the world of GPT-10.
Hey everyone! Last year at I/O, we introduced Notebook LM, a research and writing tool grounded in the information you give it. Since then, we've seen a lot of momentum with students and teachers using it. And today, Gemini 1.5 Pro is coming to Notebook LM, and it's great. Let me show you. So here we are in Notebook LM. You can load it up with all the materials here on the left. In this notebook, I've been using it with my younger son, and I've added some of his science worksheets, a few slide decks from his teacher, and even an open source textbook full of charts and diagrams. With 1.5 Pro, it instantly creates this notebook guide with a helpful summary and can generate a study guide, an FAQ, or even quizzes. But for my son, Jimmy, he really learns best when he can listen to something. So we've prototyped a new feature with Gemini, and it's called Audio Overviews. Notebook LM is going to take all the materials on the left as input and output them into a lively science discussion personalized for him. Let's take a listen.
So let's dive into physics. What's on deck for today?
Well, we're starting with the basics, force and motion.
Okay.
And that, of course, means we have to talk about Sir Isaac Newton and his 3 laws of motion.
Ah, yes, the foundation for understanding how objects move and interact.
Ah, yes, this is where multimodal really shines. Now, it generated this audio discussion based on that text material. And what's amazing is that my son and I can join into the conversation and steer it whichever direction we want. When I tap join.
Hold on, we have a question. What's up, Josh?
Yeah, can you give my son Jimmy a basketball example?
Hey, Jimmy! That's a fantastic idea. Basketball is actually a great way to visualize force and motion. Let's break it down.
Okay, so first, imagine a basketball just sitting there on the court. It's not moving, right? That's because all the forces acting on it are balanced. The downward pull of gravity.
Pretty cool, right?